Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to try and make my own cash envelopes without a laminator. So here I have all of my papers that I'm going to use to make my envelopes and also a paper cutter. So here I'm using Scrapbook paper, which I really liked. It was really affordable and I got it from Amazon. And this paper cutter, which I didn't really like, it wasn't very good, but I'll probably have to just invest in another one later on. And I also use 8.5 by 11 thermal laminating pouches, and everything I used I got from Amazon, so I'll leave it down in the description box below. So each one of the scrapbook papers were double-sided, so I just flipped each one over so that I can have 6 different patterns, and each paper is going to make 2 envelopes. So I think I'll show you guys later on that they're double-sided, so they'll have a pattern on the outside, and then there'll also be some kind of pattern on the inside, which I really thought was really pretty. Okay, so here I am showing you guys that each one of the papers are double-sided, so they'll have a pattern on the outside and a pattern on the inside of each envelope. Each paper is 12 by 12, so I figured that each paper could make 2 envelopes. So the first thing that I'm going to have to do is split each paper in half, and that'll be the base for each of the envelopes. So one of the reasons I didn't like this paper cutter was that I tried to measure each paper completely in half, but the paper cutter only had a centimeter ruler, which I guess was fine. But I had to measure each paper to about 17 centimeters, and I know that's not 6 inches, but it started at 2 inches, so there was no 1 inch, so it was kind of hard to measure the papers out. It turned out fine, but I think that kind of messed me up, and that's why some of the envelopes were different sizes. Here I am trying to mark the half point of the paper, and I was using a Sharpie at first because this paper in particular was pretty dark, so I wanted to be able to see where my mark was. But I realized that I was marking on the ruler as well, and then you could still see the mark after I cut the paper. So I switched from the permanent marker to a pencil, and that worked out much better. So I finally got my first sheet of paper cut in half, and I was super excited because it took me a while to get everything all figured out, and even still the papers weren't completely the same size, but it was fine. It worked out fine. I just kind of evened out the papers as I went along. But I'm just gonna take the rest of the papers and kind of get them cut in half as well, just so I can start actually folding and making the cash envelopes. Okay, so I finally made it to my last sheet of paper, and I cut it in half just fine. And afterwards I'm just going to kind of gather all of my papers and just kind of see what size I'm going to have to make my cash envelopes. Okay, so after that's all done, I'm going to take each paper and fold it in half again. And I make sure to fold the paper in a way that the pattern I want on the outside is outside, and then the one on the inside is folded on the inside. And I try to make these as straight as possible, but again, they didn't work out that way. The paper was just kind of thick, which was fine. If I had made the papers more evenly cut in the beginning, I think I would have had just a little bit more room to make a mistake as far as cutting them in or folding them in half. After I folded the half sheet of paper in half again, I'm just going to take the lid to a mason jar to really just try to flatten out that fold. And I make sure to use the back side of it and not the bottom side, because you don't want to rip the paper. And then just using that back side is just going to really flatten that fold. Alright, so this is essentially going to be the width of my envelope, and I'm just getting $1 here so I can figure out what length it needs to be. So I'm just going to use a pen and mark one space on the left side, and then once I have that space, I'm going to do another one on the right side, and I'm going to use that as a template for the size that I want the envelope as far as length. So here I am just cutting on the space that I marked for the measurement of the dollar bill for the length of the cash envelope. And after I cut this is really going to be the template for the rest of the cash envelopes, and the size really turned out great. I'm just going to take the dollar bill and show you guys that it fit just perfectly in this size envelope. I would have want more room because I'm not sure how much I can fit inside the envelopes that I've made, but I think that the size is pretty good for my first time trying it, and I actually am super excited and super surprised that I was able to get it the right size to where the dollar bills fit. So I'm just going to fold and cut the rest of the envelopes so they're all the same size. In this one I just had to chop off the top of it, and some of the other ones I had to do the same if they were just too big. And that was fine too, it worked out. So I have all the cash envelopes pretty much the same size.
So the envelopes that we fold. And this kind of just ensures that there's enough room for all of them to seal all the way around. So we're just going to put it in there like this. I'm going to fold it over to make sure that they're kind of tight in there.
So I just placed all the cash envelopes inside of the laminating pouches, making sure that there's enough room so that I can cut in between and not kind of break them open or break the pouches open. So that's what I just made sure, that there was enough room for me to cut in between each of the envelopes. Alright you guys, so here is my secret to not using a laminator. I decided that maybe I could use an iron to kind of seal the laminating pouches, and this definitely worked. I don't know if it was the best way to do things, but it definitely got the job done. So one thing I learned from this, which also applies to laminating with a laminator, is that you have to go from the folded end of the pouch to the open end to prevent air bubbles. So I'll know that for next time. So here are my pouches all done and laminated. I think it turned out pretty well for it to be my first time. I don't think it came out as clean as it would be with a laminator, so I might rethink that for next time. But overall, I'm super excited and proud of the job that I did for it to be my first time. So after I'm all done, I'm just going to take each one and separate each of the cash envelopes, and then I'll further cut them down to where there's only a little bit of the laminating paper left around the sides. Okay, so here I am checking the envelope to see which side is going to be the top and which side is going to be the bottom. And I did this so that for the top end, I'm cutting as close as I can to the scrapbook paper so that the cash envelope actually opens, and then also to make sure that I don't cut super close to the bottom or the sides so that it doesn't bust open. Here I'm just showing you guys that $1 actually fits inside of the cash envelope, so I'm just going to proceed to cut the rest of the sides off. And this envelope I did really well. It was really hard to cut with this paper cutter, so I know that I'm going to need a new one, but it actually worked out okay, and I was able to finish this set, but it took me way longer than I think it should have, and I also made some errors, and I think it was because of the paper cutter. So I'll probably get a new one and then see how it works for next time. So here you guys can see that even though the envelopes are kind of small, the money was still able to fit inside of each one. And like I said before, I'm just not sure how much is going to be able to fit in each envelope, so I might need to make them a little bigger next time. So this is one of the envelopes that I made a mistake on, and I think you guys can see how I'm really struggling to cut some of the paper off, and I think this just caused me to keep trying to make straight lines in the envelopes, but I kind of cut too much of the side off, as you'll see. I didn't even realize it at first that I kind of broke the side of it open because I cut it down too far. So I'm really hoping that maybe a new paper cutter would help me to not do that again. Open. Alright, so here I am just cutting out the rest of the envelopes, making sure that I'm careful not to cut too close to the sides, while also trying to get pretty straight lines. I was able to do that with all of them, with the exception of one other one, and of course it was the same color as the one I made a mistake on before, so those two were unfortunately thrown out, but that's okay, it was a learning experience. Alright you guys, so here are my cash envelopes all done, and as you can see, using the iron to set the laminating pouches left some kind of residue on them, which I didn't really find appealing, but other than that, I'm super happy with how they came out. They're so pretty, and I love the fact that they have things on the inside. Unfortunately, I did mess up two of the envelopes. As you can see, they're kind of torn on the side here. And there was no fixing them, and they of course turned out to be the same kind of pattern, so I was really sad about that, but I'm really happy that I kind of learned how to do this, and I'm so excited to make them more in the future. Okay, so here I'm just showing you guys some of the patterns that are on the inside of each one of the envelopes. And I really like the idea of using the double-sided paper because I think the inside patterns are really cute, and they give the envelope something different, just opposed to them having like a white inside. I think the color on the inside gave it a little bit more personality. And I'm also just showing that the dollar bill fits in the envelope very well. I even put a few more bills in each one of the envelopes, and they still fit pretty okay. So I want to make them bigger next time, but I know these will still work out for me, so I'm just going to use these and just keep practicing to try and make them better. I'm really happy that I tried this out, and I can't wait to make more. So if you guys like videos like this, don't forget to leave a comment down below and let me know. I would love to hear from some of you guys, and also let me know what other videos you'd like to see. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!